Welcome. It's Thursday. Hi everyone. It's Thursday afternoon, 4:15 my time. I don't know what time it is where you are. If you're watching live, drop a hey. I'd love to see who's getting here on the Thursday afternoons. If this is working for people, or you guys are watching on the replay, type replay below. Welcome, welcome. I'm kind of doing in honor of the NHL playoffs today. I'm wearing my Flames hat. They're up 3-2 on the Dallas Stars, which is kind of cool. And I'm going to start us off with kind of a quote that really works well with my topic today. So, this month in June, we're really going to focus on failure and confidence, but as it relates to goal setting and setting objectives that we're trying to create. So, the only way, if you watched last week, kind of the only way that we can achieve confidence is by setting a goal, executing the goal, and then feeling confident that we did that. So, last week I went over the 5 steps of how to create a goal and execute a goal so you can build your confidence. And major part of that is failure. So that's why I always say failure and confidence kind of go hand in hand. So you can't have one without the other. So last week, if you haven't watched last week's, I recommend going back, watching that, so you can see what the full 5 steps are. What I'm hoping is that this series in June is a lot more like a workshop for anybody who's watching, and that you can walk through the steps, watch through each episode, each segment, and build your own game plan. Treat this like, I'm your caddy, I'm your, assistant to help you to set that goal and identify these blocks in order to achieve it, right? So last week we went over number 1, find a goal, set a goal, have an objective. What do you want to accomplish, right? Step number 2 was kind of that ideation phase. Like, okay, what does this look like? What's it going to mean to you when you're kind of putting together? Step number 3 is finding the tools that you're going to need to successfully complete that challenge, right? Whether it's a program, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a coach, whether it's a new set of skills that you have to pick up. But all of those things kind of go into the first 3 stages. Usually those are pretty fun. A lot of us have no problem coming up with what we want to accomplish. I'm going to dive right into stage number 4 today, right? So, but before I do that, I'm going to start, stage number 4 is that first attempt at failure, right? Start at learning, so fail, right? First attempt at learning. And it's really, how do we overcome that inertia, right? Of, we have an idea, now we want to start it, now we want to implement this goal. How do we overcome that, right? So I pulled out one of my favorite quotes from, the best hockey player to ever live. Ever lace them up. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? And that just goes to show that if you don't try, if you don't make that first step or that first attempt, then you're guaranteed to fail. You're guaranteed to never move past where you are right now. And if we're not growing, we're receding, right? So we really have to look at where we're at in our lives and what is it that we want the next part of our life to look like? How are we going to achieve that? And it's through trying new things, right? So I have a question for everybody right now. Anyone who's watching live, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a hi in the chat or drop a heart to help boost it a bit. I'm going to start with a question like I always do. How often do you succeed on the first try at anything, right? And I was telling this to my wife earlier. I was telling this to Sanaz, and I go, you remember, I like to cook, and I think of myself as a pretty good cook, and I like to try different things. And I remember the first time I tried to make carbonara, which is an Italian pasta dish. It's creamy, it's delicious, it's cheesy, it's lovely. And I was like determined to make it. And the first time I made it, it turned out trash. Like, it curdled on me. It was just basically a big block of goo in the pot, and I was so angry. I tossed the entire pot into the garbage, pasta, pot, and all into the garbage. I let off a few F-bombs, but it was my first attempt, right? It was my very first attempt at doing this dish that I had no idea how to make, and I tried it again and again and again, and sometimes I nailed it. Sometimes it turned out and it was wonderful. And then other times it's just kind of less than my expectation. But the point is, the first one was garbage, right? And I think we have to keep that in mind when we're setting these goals and we're trying to go and create something brand new, is that expect your first try to be garbage, right? But there's so much fear and apprehension with doing new things, right? And I think this is something that we have to keep in mind as we're trying to take something else, right? So this week's topic, like I said before, I'm going to title it Overcoming the Inertia, right? Which is overcoming our apprehension to doing it. We have the idea, we know what we want, now what? Right? How are we going to overcome this? And think of anything that we're doing that's big and kind of creates that fear in the pit of our stomach. That's when you know you're on the right track, that you're doing something worthwhile. But it's the equivalent of standing on the edge of a bridge with a jumpy cord strapped to your legs, right? What is compelling you to jump, right? What is compelling you to strike out into something that's giving you fear and overcoming that fear in order to accomplish something big, right? One thing I want to bring up is as we get older, I believe our fear of failure increases. Like our failure tolerance decreases with the amount of experiences that we have. When we're young, you know, and I look at my kids all the time to lead into this, but when we're young, we're not afraid of anything. You know, like we will touch a hot plate. We will jump off of a couch. We will jump off of a high fence, right? The parents are the ones who are afraid for the kids, but the kids aren't really that afraid. And then when you're a teenager, again, same thing. You're not afraid to go out there and try something new because you haven't had the experience of failure. And as we get older, we hold on to those experiences of failure way more than we hold on to the experiences of success, right? Because we have to fail more times before we succeed. Once we succeed, it's over. We don't even think about it after. Like one analogy I love to use is how confident are you with walking, right? And it took most of us a year to a year and a half to learn how to walk. And yet after, we don't give it a second pause. If we were to apply that to something else, how long did it take you to get your degree in university? 4 years, 5 years, 6 years? Maybe not at all. Or learning your skill, you're learning your trade. How many years did it take? Once you learned it, you forgot about it. But you remember the difficulty it had to get to that point. So we always focus more on the effort and not the result. And that's what I believe prevents us from taking that first step. So what does that mean for this first attempt, for overcoming this inertia? We have to, number one, we need to know our why. And I know this is talked about a lot, but it's super important, right? This why, the bigger the goal, the more important the why, okay? You cannot, and I'm going to change colors here, the more important the goal, the more this why has to resonate with you, okay? So why are you trying to do it? Number two, and I'm going to kind of, you know, what do you want to accomplish and why do you want to accomplish it? Number two, I believe you need to put some time. How long are you going to give yourself? Right? And I'll use a very simple example. What do I want to do? Maybe I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay? And I'm going to give myself 1 month. Right? What's my why for losing that 10 pounds? Is it so I can have shredded abs? You know, my wife would love that. I think all our wives want us to have some shredded abs. But what's your why for having it? Is it because you got a test back from, you know, the doctor saying that you needed to lose 10 pounds because your cholesterol is too high, or that you were close to being, you know, a diabetic? You know, or is it just because you want to have a great ripped beach body? Maybe you're single. Maybe you were looking to find a new girlfriend, and that 10 pounds is going to help you build that confidence to go out there and ask people out. But for the most part, our why of why we want to accomplish something comes from something painful. It usually comes from a diagnosis from the doctor. Like for me, it was cancer. For some people, it's being fired or laid off. That puts the fire in them to go and try something new, try a new career or a new endeavor. Maybe it's divorce or separation, right? Like what's these changes that we want to implement are usually coming from a pain point, right? So what's your pain point? What's your driving factor for wanting to do this, right? So it could be losing 10 pounds. For somebody else, it could be to stop drinking, right? So I'm going to put the other one beside there. So it's, no drinking, right? And how long are you going to give yourself to do that? If this is a harder thing to do, you might want to give yourself 6 months, right? So the time component, I think, is overlooked a lot, and I think it is one of the critical pieces to this first step. Because once you've established your time, right, now you can say to yourself, if I attempt it the first time, well, that's okay, because I have this time to do the second, third, fourth, right? But the third one is, these are the three ones. The third one, though, is what do you stand to lose if you fail? Right? And I think this is one that you have to think about as you're attempting something for the first time. What's your why? Why are you doing this? Here's your what. Now, what's your why? How long are you going to give yourself to do it? And what do you stand to lose if you don't? And I'll walk through this example here. So if your what is 10 pounds and your why is diabetes, right? Well, losing the 10 pounds and gaining it again isn't going to benefit you. You're trying to change a lifestyle. So losing the 10 pounds, you're doing this because you want to live. You want to be here and live a happy life, or maybe you don't. So that's what you have to lose. Do you have to lose, is this, 10 more years with your kids? Is this being active with your wife? Or is it just shredded abs? Right? So I look at those and go to myself, well, which is the one that's really going to help me to overcome this inertia, right? What's going to get me started? It could be just as excited as I want to look in the mirror and get those shredded abs, but then what? And then if it's something significantly more, in your mind, significantly more serious, like maybe you got a DUI and you're like, this is the last time. I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm going to give myself 6 months to quit. And what do I stand to lose if I don't do this? Well, maybe it's driving privileges. Maybe it's your marriage. Maybe you'll go to jail. So checking in with these things is really important when we're setting these goals and we're trying to build that confidence, because at the beginning, it was, what's your goal? Why do you want to do it, right? Kind of goes back to this. What is the level of importance? Because the more important something is, the bigger the why and the harder it is to get started, right? There's more fear there. There's more, you're worried about what happens if if you can't get that result, right? And so this is kind of the first part. So what I'm going to offer you guys for this, if you've been watching live, if you guys are watching in a replay, I'd love to hear back from you. But what I would offer is you take that first lesson and build your goal and build all the things that you need to do to accomplish that goal. And then take a pause and ask yourself these three questions. What's your why for change? How long are you going to dedicate to this goal, to this objective? And what do you stand to lose if you quit? And really memorialize those as you start the process, right? And this will help you to take that first step, knowing that first step is only the first attempt, right? Knowing that there probably will be a trip up in your near future, but what's going to get you back up so that you can go to the second one, okay? And this will lead into the next group, the next session, the next live that I'm going to do, which is how do we do it repeatedly, right? How can we do something hard repeatedly, and how does that build our confidence, right? Because if we're failing constantly, how do we feel good about it? But I'll say that till next week. This week, I want you to just focus on these three questions that need to be answered if you're going to be successful, okay? And I would love for anybody who is brave enough to post these on the lives, I'd love to see what your 3 whys, time, and what you stand to lose. Or if you need help with this, for the whole month of May and into June, I am offering 45-minute strategy sessions with me one-on-one to walk through these questions, to walk through building your plan, picking some holes in it, looking for the blind spots, helping you flesh out these whys, the time. It's this process is a lot easier with help. And that's why I'm offering it to you. Don't leave it on the table. If you're trying something new and you feel that you need some help to get across the finish line, or you need that to at least build the plan, I'm offering you this 45-minute session. I really want you guys to take me up on this offer. Go to my website, www.petebeskus.com. It's in the notes below, and you'll see a link for that 45-minute session. Find a time that works for you, and I would love to do this, help you on that first step, right? And then you see what you need to go forward. Okay. So everybody, thank you again for watching. Like I said, if you're watching this on the replay, please comment below, give it a heart if you loved it. Let me know if this was of value to you, if you guys want to see more of this kind of stuff. Next week, I'm going to help with the second part of this, which is the second attempt in learning, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and however many it takes to build that resilience to succeed. So definitely drop a like below. I can't wait to see y'all next week. Have a great weekend, and take care, everyone. Thanks.